Little Richard was a notorious American artist whose heritage and impact in the music business are both significant and persevering at the hour of his demise on 2020 at 87 years old. Little Richard's total assets were assessed at $40 million eminent for his jolting exhibitions and spearheading commitments to take care of business. Little Richard's music is portrayed by his signature overflowing shouts and wild piano playing hits like Tutti Frutti and Great Golly, Miss Molly, which impelled him to notoriety, procuring him the title the Draftsman of Wild. His vigorous style and showy persona set up for people in the future of artists and characterized the stone kind in the 1950s. Little Richard's impact stretched out past the music graphs and into film. He showed up in a few movies, counting Don't Thump the Stone 1956, The Young Lady Can't Resist 1957, and Mr. Rowdy 1957, exhibiting his melodic gifts to a more extensive crowd notwithstanding his prosperity. Little Richard went through a critical change in the last option part of the 10 years. In 1959, he recorded his gospel debut collection. God is truly in the wake of choosing to leave rock music for strict pursuits anyway. By 1964, Little Richard had gotten back to his rowdy decays, proceeding to charm crowds with his dynamic exhibitions. The mid-1970s were a turbulent period for him, checked by battles with dependence on cocaine, heroin, and different substances. The awful demise of his sibling and other harrowing encounters drove him to revoke both medications and rock and roll, leaving on an excursion of recuperation and self-revelation. Little Richard's commitments to music were officially perceived in 1986 when he was accepted into the Wild Corridor of Distinction, setting his status as a trailblazer of the class. That very year, he depicted a fictionalized adaptation of himself in the parody done for Beverly Slopes, showing his perseverance through bid and flexibility as a performer. His honors went on with a star on the Hollywood Stroll of Distinction in 1990 and a Grammy Lifetime Achievement grant in 1993, recognizing his significant effect on the music business. In 2004, Little Richard conveyed an important execution at the Super Bowl halftime show, reaffirming his status as an unbelievable entertainer. Richard Wayne Pendon, broadly known as Little Richard, was brought into the world on December 5, 1932, in the lively city of Moan, Georgia. He was the third of 12 kids brought into the world to Leva Mae and Charles Pennon. His dad, a diverse man, filled in as a congregation minister and functioned as a block layer. Moreover, he sold contraband alcohol and possessed a dance club called the Tie-Pin in a well-known spot in their area. Little Richard's childhood in the wonderful Slope, the neighborhood of Mon, was well established in music, and confidence his family was effectively engaged with different nearby church networks, which enormously impacted his melodic excursion. The youthful Richard, warmly nicknamed Nearly Nothing Richard by his family, because of his slight, what's more, thin edge tracked down specific satisfaction in going to Pentecostal chapels, the fiery love administrations loaded up with energetic music, and vivacious assemblage had an enduring effect on him from an early age. Little Richard was charmed by the strong hints of gospel music. He grew up paying attention to unbelievable gospel specialists like sibling Joe May, sister Rosetta Tharpe, Mahalia Jackson, and Moran Williams. These impacts molded his special melodic style portrayed by its abundance and heartfelt articulation. Little Richard went to Hudson High School in Mon. His affection for music stretched out past the study hall as he occupied a seasonal occupation at the Mon Metropolitan Assembly Room. There he sold beverages to concert attendees, absorbing the exhibitions of different craftsmen and further powering his energy for music in quest for a more profound comprehension of his confidence. Little Richard went to Oakwood School in Huntsville, Alabama, where he concentrated on religious philosophy. This time of his life was set apart by a harmony between his strict convictions and his thriving melodic profession. Notwithstanding his commitment to his examinations, the call of music demonstrated as well solid opposition in the long run, driving him to the way that would make a stone and roll legend in the dynamic air of the Mon Metropolitan Hall in the 1940s was a significant crossroads in music history unfurled when Sister Rosetta, a compelling gospel vocalist, heard a youthful Richard Wayne Pendon singing her melodies. Dazzled by his crude ability, she welcomed him to open for her presentation, paying him for his endeavors. This pivotal open door touched off Richard's enthusiasm for performing and set him on a way that would ultimately prompt his turning into the unbelievable. Little Richard demonstrated hatred for Ed by this experience. Richard left school subsequent to finishing the ninth grade in 1949 to join Hudson's Medication Show. This voyaging troupe gave him his most memorable taste of life out and about, and the stage of his venture then took him to Houston, where he shaped a band called The Rhythm, clinchers performing all through the southern U.S. These early exhibitions leveled up his abilities and made a difference in helping him foster the unique stage presence that would later turn into his brand name. In 1955, Little Richard made a strong stride by sending a demo recording to the Forte Records. This choice ended up being a defining moment in his profession. Later that year, he delivered the famous tune Tutti Frutti, which turned into a moment's sensation. The melody's irresistible musicality and Richard's abundant conveyance pushed it to number 2 on Bulletin's Musicality. Also, blues outclasses Merchant's outline, and it additionally made huge advances into the pop graphs in both the US and the UK. The melody's prosperity denoted the start of Little Richard's fleeting ascent to acclaim. Little Richard's live exhibitions were progressive, drawing in huge and various crowds. His vigorous shows were eminent for uniting white and dark American crowds during a period of huge racial isolation, testing accepted practices, and clearing the way for future craftsmen to connect racial partitions, notwithstanding his prosperity. Richard encountered a significant individual change following a couple of years at the apex of rowdy. He decided to pass on the music scene to embrace conceived-again Christianity. His takeoff from rock and roll was impermanent anyway, as he was convinced to visit Europe in 1962 during this visit. A then unexplored world band called The Beatles opened for him, outlining his expansive impact on the music world. Over the following many years, Little Richard's vocation was set apart by a progression of revoke, uns and withdraws. While he incidentally ventured away from performing to zero in on his strict convictions, he kept on playing a fundamental job in molding American music. His capacity to contact crowds of all races made him one of the first dark specialists to accomplish such an accomplishment, separating racial obstructions and making way for people in the future of performers. In 1986, he was drafted into the rowdy corridor of notoriety, a demonstration of his crucial job in molding the class. His songwriting ability was likewise celebrated with an acceptance into the musician's lobby of popularity. Additionally, he got the Lifetime Achievement grant from both the Recording Foundation and the Beat and Blues establishment, highlighting his getting through influence on the music industry. In 2010, Little Richard's momentous hit To Fruity was cherished in the Library of Congress Public Recording Vault, setting its place as a socially and all things considered huge recording. This honor featured the melody's part in the birth of rock and roll and its enduring impact on famous music. Little Richard's commitments to African American music and culture were further recognized in 2015 when he got the Rhapsody and Mood Grant from the Public Historical Center of African American Music. This honor perceived his endeavors to connect the racial separation in America through his music, which united crowds of various races during a period of huge social isolation. In a sincere meeting with Drifter in September 2013, Little Richard declared his retirement from performing. Considering his profession, he expressed, in a sense, "I'm done on the grounds that I don't feel like doing anything right now." He added, "I figure my heritage ought to have been the point at which I begun in the start of show business. Rock can't actually exist also. Roll when I began with Tutti Frutti, that is when exciting music truly began." Shaking. His last show occurred in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in 2014, stamping the conclusion of a significant time period for one of rock and roll's principal architects, even in retirement. Little Richard proceeded to be respected for his commitments to music. In May 2016, the Public Exhibition Hall of African American Music featured him as a vital figure at the third yearly Legend festivity in Nashville. The occasion respected outstanding specialists in industry pioneers, including Shirley Caesar Kennebec and Leon Spat, with a renowned Rap City Cadence grants. On October 23, 2019, Little Richard made an interesting public appearance at the Tennessee Lead Representatives Crafts Grant at the Lead Representatives Manor in Nashville, where he got the Exceptional Craftsman Grant. Tending to the crowd, he offered his thanks, also thought about his amazing excursion in music. With all of this achievement, it's nothing unexpected that we would highlight his ultra-rich home manor in Lynchburg, Tennessee, a Tennessee home once claimed by rowdy legend Little Richard has been recorded available to be purchased at almost $350,000, situated in the enchanting town of Lynchburg. Thanks for watching this video.